So, a resident recognition, there was an event at Second Presbyterian Church one Sunday, and a woman unfortunately had her wallet taken out of her purse, and the perpetrator dropped it into a dumpster after taking the cash out of it, and an aware resident taking their trash out saw the wallet in there, opened it up, and had all the woman's identification and social security card, and just all those things that would just aggravate you to know that trying to replace. Mr. Cummins, the Central West End resident, found it, brought it to our office with the police department. We were able to get it back. In fact, ironically, I saw the woman at the Department of Motor Vehicles down on Lindell. I was renewing my driver's license, and she was getting a new one. We didn't piece it together until a couple hours later when I showed up at her doorstep. So it was returned to the resident minus some money, but she was grateful nevertheless. So we wanted to recognize Mr. Cummins about taking, instead of just discarding it or not taking the initiative to bring it to us, he went the extra mile and we were able to get back to the owner. We have an officer, Kevin Matea, who works out of the North Patrol Division, but works down here in the Central West End quite a bit on the for TCF and the supplemental patrols. He was working on July 25th. Stopped a guy in the 4600 block of McPherson because we, as some of you know through our crime alerts, we were having a problem, and kind of every summer it seems to come up where thieves will go into your garages and take your lawnmowers or rummage through your cars or take bikes. And that was happening, and so we had some extra officers out there. He was one of them. He saw a guy in the alley in the 4600 block trying the garage doors. He stopped him. As it turns out, he's got a criminal history for theft and stealing, and he was actively wanted out of another jurisdiction. So that was good initiative on the officer's part and a good arrest. He didn't stop there, though. He recently, August 11th, he gets flagged down by Straub's. A woman talking on her cell phone, which is something that's been going on quite a bit, completes her call, and a young little juvenile ran out and snatched the phone right out of her hand and took off running. Now, she had an iPhone, and she had the tracking software on the iPhone. And the officer there had the capability to identify or locate her phone and follow its movements while relaying it to officers that work in the 7th District, just north of here. And they were able to get within very close range of the guy who had it in his pocket. And then there's another capability of the software. They were able to make the phone make an audible noise, and boom, it's right in his pocket. So that was a quick response by the officer working secondary. He was able to get the phone back to the young lady, and it was a happy ending except for the juvenile who stole it. So we have some court cases and so forth that I want to go through, but I want to get to Captain Mueller first. Captain Mueller is our new captain here. I think you started, the end of July, early August, sir. He took Captain Moran's spot and retired. Captain Mueller comes to us today. He's got started his police career in 1983, and he's had, as you can see, quite exposure to all the police department, most of the police department's districts, and he's been the commander of the communications division, commander of the public affairs, public information, commander of the audit advisory unit, and now he's currently assigned, and we're fortunate to have him as our captain. Please welcome Captain Mueller.
I can't keep a steady job, I guess. It's been an interesting 30 years. I just had my 30th anniversary actually in July, and looking forward to spending some time here in the 9th District. It's one of the districts, as you saw, that I've never worked before. I've now hit all 3 districts in the Central Patrol Division, and always enjoyed Central Patrol, always wanted to be in the 9th, and can't tell you how welcome I've felt here since I came by every group, every individual that I've met. So I know this group will be the same. Jim had asked me to talk a little bit about the crime. He did a pretty good job of recapping my bio. I will tell you, I'm married, have 2 fairly young kids. They'll be 11 and 13 in October. So they keep me busy. But outside of coaching their baseball and bowling and things like that, my time is pretty much as a police officer. So I've loved the job ever since I was 14 years old. I knew there was nothing else I ever wanted to do. And after 30 years full-time at it, that's still true. So I enjoy it. I enjoy working with groups. My background in public information, public affairs, speaks to my community involvement. Brian can tell you our time in the first district, how closely we work together, and I look forward to continuing that here. But Jim had asked me to talk about some of the crime in the area, and again, or still I should say, what we call car cloudings or thefts of vehicles are the big news of the day. It's not only here in the 9th district, it's throughout the city, the county, all across the nation. It's the crime du jour, if you will. They're finding easy pickings. And frankly, one of the things that's driving it, especially here in the St. Louis area, regardless of how you feel about the law on it, concealed carry is driving a lot of it. Because what we find is people legally carry their weapon, park in a place where they can't take it inside, and lock it in their car. And the thieves know this as well. So they break into the car. We're seeing a lot of cars broken into with nothing taken. And we believe they're looking for guns. So they break into the car, they rummage through it, they don't find a gun, because there's not too many places you can hide one, and move on to the next. So a lot of it turns into a destruction of property or an attempt theft, as opposed to something actually being taken. So what I personally recommend is that if you have a concealed carry permit, that you either, if you're going somewhere you know you can't take the weapon inside, either leave it at home or have a secure, safe locking box put in your trunk where you can securely lock that weapon. They're going to hit whatever cars they're going to hit anyway, but we would much rather see the weapon not be stolen and remain in the hands of someone who's licensed to have it and trained to use it, rather than see it out on the streets. So if you have the wherewithal to make the investment of having a gun safe put in your trunk, that's probably your best bet. Then you can continue to carry on the way to and from. If you can't do that, our best recommendation is to leave the weapon at home until you can take it someplace where you can keep it on. Obviously, cars are not secure. They're surrounded by glass, and glass shatters easily, as we see time and time again. But what we're trying to do, we're adding some more things to what we've got going. But currently, we have a 2-man car on overtime that's in the Central West End every night. We also have overtime cars in the Grove area and in the Midtown area. What we've done recently is we've combined all of those to work together rather than have one car here, one car here, one car here. We put them all together and they work this area, then they go work this area, then they go work this area. We've seen success with that in the Grove area. We're having an impact down there. We see crime, especially the car cloudings, going up and down, kind of wavering here in Central West End. There's some weeks it's been down, some weeks it's been back up. We're up 4 larcenies, 4 incidents this week as compared to this week last year. So we're continuing on that. Their charge is not only to ride around, but to stop cars, stop pedestrians, and get out of the car and walk the beat as well. So we're trying to do all 4. And the other thing we're adding into it, as soon as the printing gets done, a lot of the break-ins come from people visiting the area. I know there are some residents and business owners that have been affected, but a lot of it is by people visiting the area. And we have what we call Park Smart cards, which have tips on them for how to secure your car, what not to leave in your car, and things like this. And these overtime crews are going to be fixing those under windshields as they go along to try and bring some more awareness to it. We've got some efforts. We're trying to work with the detectives to help identify who these people are. But the best news that we have is that a very prolific car clouder by the name of Anthony Holt has recently been arrested and has confessed to many car break-ins. Now, they're all property crimes, But because of the volume of them, and they were spread out in the 4th district, the 9th district, the 7th district, he's hitting all around, was hitting all around in this area. He's off the street now. And we're looking for the result of that to hopefully bring down the number of park lots. The not so good news is last night we had a real spree going on. There was a two-man crime spree that went through the city. They were driving a white SUV, kind of a pearl white, I'm told. There's conflicting reports as to what the brand is, whether it was a Toyota or Escalade or what. But a white SUV. They hit in the 1st district where they did a robbery, actually robbed a person. They hit here in the 9th district where they got into, I think, a total of 12 cars throughout the district. And they hit in the 7th district where they got 6 or 8 more cars. We haven't found these guys yet. And one of those instances, not only did we have the one down south where they did the robbery, in one of the instances, a car pulled up behind them at a stop sign. One of them got out and identified himself as a police officer and made the guy get out of the car, who then took off running. So we're
falsely identified himself?
Yes. Yes. Shooting a flashlight in the driver's eyes so he couldn't see who he was or anything like that. And the victim took off. He knew they weren't police. He took off running. And surprisingly, when he got back, his car and all the contents were still there. But we're 99% sure it was his group because the description of everything matches. So they're dangerous people. They're not just breaking into cars. They're a couple dangerous people. And we're working real hard to get some intelligence information about them, figure out who they are, and get them off the street quickly. We're very concerned.
What's the penalty remaining of falsely identified himself?
Yeah, it's a misdemeanor. So well, it should, yes, because they can do a lot more if they gain someone's false trust like that. But it is a misdemeanor, Class A, if I recall, which means the most severe misdemeanor without becoming a felon. But the robberies and the volume of car break-ins they did are probably as serious or more than that. So we're looking to find those guys, and hopefully very shortly I'll be able to report to Jim that they were brought in. And Jim and I communicate probably almost daily, exchanging information back and forth, and he provides us with some tips. We shoot back. This Tory Holt, by the way, I should mention, I believe, we haven't proven this yet, but that picture you sent me of the older Oldsmobile with the luggage rack on back, he stole and drove older Oldsmobiles. That was his MO. So we're pretty sure that he was the one that was in that picture you sent me. So we're looking to make improvements there. And other than that, it's a really nice district to be in. The Central West End is a really nice area. And fortunately, as it stands now, and this is not in stone, but it's one of the considerations the chief has made. As you've probably heard, we're probably around the first of the year going to whittle down to 6 districts rather than 9. I can tell you that they did make changes to the initial proposal of the maps, and the entire Central West End will remain together as a neighborhood in one district. Whether that will be a district out of the North Patrol Station or the Central Patrol Station, I still don't know. Everything is still in flux. They're starting to add in the beats into the districts, but there are still changes that can and some that need to be made. And so I don't want to promise you a whole lot, but I'm 99% sure again that will remain the same. The Central West End will remain a cohesive unit, and whatever captain is affiliated with you, I'm sure will be very happy to work with you.
What I have observed is most of the people that do these crimes don't live in this area.
Oh, that's true. As I mentioned, the crimes done here, especially the car crimes, are mostly people coming into the area, and the people doing them also are coming into the area just to do them. They know this is what we call a target-rich environment, and so they go where the goods are. And so they may come out of North St. Louis, they may come out of far west, they may come out of county.
I think these people are dreaming. How do the people in this area work tirelessly for what they have? Right.
Unfortunately, they are only property crimes. They're very inconvenient and they're very expensive. But fortunately, we're not seeing a lot of assaults and robberies and things where there's life, safety, and danger. So that's the positive side. Did I cover everything that you've asked?
I think that I asked, does anybody?
Did anyone else have any questions? Anything I can address?
You mentioned the Park Smart cards. Is that information available somewhere that we can get it online? Or?
I believe it's on the St. Louis Police website. SLMPD.org would be the web address. I believe it's on there under the public information section.
On the note of robberies, I think the Central West End's down 25 robberies, at least at the beginning of August compared to this time last year. And last year, a lot of it was attributed to Lester Johnson, who went on a crime spree all over the city, but he hit at least 3 times in the Central West End with multiple victims. But that's really encouraging, that the violent crime, armed robbery, and the impact that it has on victims, that is way down.
The only crime category that was up this week was the car break-ins. That was up by either 8 or 10, I forget which, but an increase, which we don't like, but not a real serious increase.
Yeah, our plan to piggyback off the police department's idea with the Park Smart. We have a lot of kids that just moved into the area, renters that are from out of town or out of state, attending WashU Medical or another school at WashU, or they're just new to the area, and it's kind of an educational piece that we're going to do. When we have a group of cars, we're going to put some at the Comfort Inn. That hotel lot seems to get hit with some frequency. So we'd like the hotel management maybe to alert their guests, hey, don't leave things out in your car. If we have car break-ins in a certain area, we'll have our bike officers go down in there on their patrol and maybe saturate the area with some of these Park Smart cards. Ours are a little different from the police departments. We have some from the police departments. Ours just completely discourage you from leaving anything in your car because they'll break into it. If your car's locked, more than likely they'll break into it. It'll take them 20 seconds to fish around and see if there's anything worth stealing. If not, they're going to move on to the next car. So I don't think we actually tell you not to lock your car, but that's Jim White's advice. Don't lock your car because the window where you're locked is not going to keep an intent card plotter out of your car. Well, I appreciate Captain Mueller showing up tonight. I'm really excited about him taking over the control of the 9th District. He's got a lot of initiatives already that he's implemented with some overtime, some additional patrols that we're fortunate to get down here in the Central West End. Most of you that come to this meeting regularly know that we follow cases. When the police department arrests someone in the Central West End, we get involved. We have Isabella Logadina, who's our court advocate. And we get involved in a couple ways. One, we try to establish contact with the victim to see if they need anything. Because if any of you have gone through the court process, it can be very intimidating and overwhelming as a victim. So we try and establish that contact early on. But we also track the case from the moment that person's arrested and criminally charged by the prosecutors, the circuit attorney's office. We can go on to anybody can go on to CaseNet, and if you know the person's name, you can follow that case. And we sign up, and we get email alerts whenever there's a movement in that criminal case. If it's a bond hearing or a motion to suppress evidence or whatever, all the way up until there's a disposition. And that's when we really show up. We have you write letters in support. As a resident of the neighborhood, the courts will now allow you, although you're not the specific victim of the crime, you live in a neighborhood and you experience the impact that crime has on you as a resident. So judges are accepting those, they read those, and our hope, and it works sometimes, is to influence the judge to do what most of us kind of already expect them to do. But that doesn't always happen. And so tonight, Isabella has a couple impact statements that we wrote on behalf of the neighborhood that we'd like you to look at. And if you like how it's worded, we'd like you to sign it, because those are going to be turned over to the judge in these cases as they decide what sort of punishment or sentence to give. Now, you don't have to sign your name, you can write your initials, and you don't have to give your exact address. You can just put, I live in the 4500 block of McPherson, or whatever. But if it's something that you agree to and you want to help support this effort, then we ask you just to initial and put your address. So Isabel will, I'll give you another pen if you need. We'll pass them around. There's 4 of them, so if you don't only sign 3, you know you missed one. But while she's doing that, I'll go through and update you on some cases. I will tell you, Thomas Cho was an employee of Straub's and stole almost $1,000. Obviously, he was fired, but he also went out and burglarized several churches out in town and country and several businesses in Kirkwood. So I don't have a picture of him, but he's somebody that's got a court case coming up. LaRon Eason and Deontay Harris. I don't have Deontay Harris's photograph, but this is LaRon Eason. Back in November of 2011, both Eason and Harris committed multiple armed robberies, 1 or 2 of which were in the Central West End, and both are being sentenced this Friday at 10 a.m. And I didn't put that in on the slide for some reason, but if you're able to show up, we appreciate everybody coming. I will tell you, if it says 10 a.m., that doesn't mean we're going to be done by 10:15. That's the unfortunate part, as some people who have attended can attest to. 10 a.m. usually means the judge will walk in at about 10:30, and I'm not being critical, but things don't work precisely at the established times. But we're going to be down there. We're going to be attending. We're going to let the judge, the prosecutors will identify us to the judge, and people from the neighborhood being down there. So, okay, 10 a.m. Friday at the Carnahan Courthouse. These 2 gentlemen in Division 16. We'll put it out on the internet or on our website. Will be sentenced. So, and they're charged with multiple counts of armed robbery. Now, me as a 20-year policeman, I would say, well, you don't need to show up when a guy does 3 or 4 armed robberies. You go to jail for committing 3 or 4 armed robberies, naturally, don't you? Well, no, not necessarily. No. There are no gimmies in this. There are no automatics. There are no, well, certainly they commit that crime, they're going to jail. I shouldn't say there are very few of those. And again, I'll recognize Neil Miller. He's a circuit attorney, assistant circuit attorney, and he lives in the Central West End, but he's a great resource. And feel free to chime in anytime, Neil, to help me out. But you can't take things for granted. You can't take the fact that he robbed several people with a gun. We can't assume that because of the act, the crime, that he's going to receive a similar corresponding punishment that's suitable. Kenneth Butler, he too, back in 2011, he and an accomplice robbed 2 WashU students at gunpoint in the 43rd block of West Pine around 11 o'clock at night. He was charged with 3 counts of robbery first, armed criminal action, and then stole the woman's credit card and used that, which is a felony, and also unlawful possession of a firearm. He's also being sentenced Friday. So I'll be in one court, and Isabella will be in another court. I'll be on Kenneth Butler's at Judge Grady's in Division 21 at 9:30 in the morning. Peggy Jenkins, she was arrested in September of last year, 419 North Euclid. I think that's the parking lot right there, or near the parking lot on Euclid at like Westminster. She had a warrant out for arrest. She was found in possession of some marijuana and a concealed firearm, which is very concerning considering the amount of people that are walking around on Euclid. So she's being sentenced on September 6th, 9 a.m. in Judge Neal's court. which is in the Civil Courts Building in Division 5. We'll provide a reminder of all of these things via email and on our website. We have a calendar on our website that also identifies these pending court dates. So. Thomas Chose, who was involved in the theft from Straub's, is going to be at our office. The letter to the judge. He's not going to get it on. Is that the way it sounded? Mary Kay Roberts, I think I've talked about her 4 or 5 times in meetings. She just won't go away. Literally. She was arrested in 2000. For those that don't know, and for those that do, I apologize. She was arrested for stealing about $2,000 worth of eyewear from the IROC in Maryland Plaza back in September. At the time of her theft, she was on probation both in the St. Louis City Circuit and St. Louis County Circuit. She was on probation in both circuits for theft and stealing related offenses. She's a 30-year career criminal, and she's got over 20 felony convictions. She has violated the conditions of her probation or parole 9 times. So the judge, Ed Sweeney in this case, sentenced her to 14 years. 7 years for the new theft case and 7 years for violating her probation. And this is where Neil can help further explain because I don't even understand. Within 120 days of administering a sentence, the judge has the option of reviewing that sentence and changing it if he likes. I will tell you, and so will Neil, that does not happen very often. And it doesn't happen without some sort of mitigating circumstances, I would think. But nevertheless, in this case, Judge Sweeney took it upon himself at day 119 or close to 120. He said, you know what? I'm changing her sentence from 14 years and I'm reducing it to probation. Even though this woman has violated her probation or her parole 9 times, he felt compelled. In fact, Channel 4 tried to interview him about it, and I don't think he did a very good job of explaining what his rationale was. Judge Sweeney stands by his decision. I respect him for that, and I've invited him to this meeting. He had a conflict tonight, but I'm hoping that he will be here October 30th to explain to you, the taxpayer, the resident, all the different things that he takes into consideration when he sentences people. She does have an underlying drug problem, and she's been in and out of treatment for that drug problem. Ironically, she's only been arrested for drugs once out of her 30-year career. So I don't know how much of a. I think she got 20 convictions for stealing. I think she's got a stealing problem. But anyway, so we were not very satisfied with the results that we got in the city. But fortunately, she's also on probation out in St. Louis County. So next Wednesday, we'll be going out to Judge Walsh's court in St. Louis County. And again, we'll be asking the judge out there to revoke her probation and send her to prison for the crime that she's on probation out in St. Louis County. So we will provide an update on how that hearing goes.
Jim,
Yes.
Very briefly, if and when Judge Sweeney ever comes here to talk to this group, if he is asked any questions about that specific case, his answer here will be the same as it was to the television reporter, which is the canons of judicial ethics prohibit me from discussing any specific case. So any questions to him would have to be general, and not related to that specific case.
We will change the names of the.
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly ask. You could certainly ask him hypothetically. If you came, if you were had someone to sentence who, let's say, had more than 15 felony convictions.
Right.
Under what circumstances would you possibly believe that it would be appropriate to give such a person probation? That might be a more neutral kind of question. But I'm just letting everyone know.
You gotta love lawyers.
You have, by the way, the rules of ethics that apply to me prohibit me from, unlike the rest of you, I am prohibited from criticizing any particular decision of the judge.
Yes,
Well, you know, and I think I sent you an email on this. I think what we have to do is be aware of sentences that some of these judges hand down, and remember that periodically they're up for election.
Well, they're up for retention. It's a different, they don't run for election. They're on the ballot, and the question is, should they be retained? And that's a whole different ballgame.
So if the answer is no,
Well, if the answer is no, then the people who appointed them will appoint a replacement. Isn't that?
It's never happened, but some have come close. But you identify an important fact that there's no real objective way that I don't think that judges are evaluated. The St. Louis Bar Association evaluates judges on things like punctuality, and if you go to jury duty, were they courteous and respect, things that are fluff, I guess. That, there's no meat or substance to their evaluation. But, hey, if the same judge keeps coming on our radar and now we've developed a pattern and there's something, we can take issue with the judge or with the circuit court, or other methods. But certainly you as a resident have a right to express your frustration or your concern about some of these decisions directly to them. And I will say, Judge Sweeney, after he made this decision, he said, listen, Jim, that's my decision. I would be more than happy to come speak at any of your meetings in front of your groups, because he understands his duty, and he's not trying to hide or skirt that at all. So I respect him for that, and we'll just come prepared with some questions and try and get a good idea of the type of judge. He's been a judge for 16 years. I think he was just retained last year, so we have, are they 6-year retentions?
I don't know.
I think it's 6 years, so
Yeah.
4-year retention. So he won't be eligible, he won't be on the ballot for another 3 years, so.
And Jim?
Yes.
He was a circuit attorney, 4 years as judge.
And he was
He was with the circuit attorney's office, as a matter of fact.
He was also a state rep, I think, before that.
He was.
So he's got a lot of experience. So, okay, so active case, Mary Kay Roberts, are cases that have been disposed of. She's back on that. So, and I just explained all that. So, Romel Tanner was a young man who, back in October of last year, and again in January of this year, took it upon himself to approach women who were walking by themselves and push them down to the ground and steal their purses and flee the area. And the one in October, unfortunately, got her whole purse. He came back the next day with her car keys and stole her car, too. So, our bad luck, he went ahead in front of Judge Sweeney again. Same week, I can't make this up. The recommendation for committing those 2 robberies was 10 years at the Circuit Attorney's Office. He was given an SIS, which means if he completes his 3 years of probation, he will not have a criminal conviction for these 2 robberies. And what does that mean? Well, that means if and when he reoffends, those prior felony convictions will not count when it comes to sentencing or Circuit Attorney's Office enhancing the charge, right?
Well, no. Certainly at a sentencing on a future crime, the judge would be made aware of it. And furthermore, if he has 2 or more felony guilty pleas or convictions, he's categorized as a prior and persistent offender, and then his sentences, the range of punishment for future convictions get enhanced.
Okay.
So it does count for law enforcement purposes. What it doesn't count for is if a potential employer, for example, were to look him up in CaseNet, once he has successfully completed his SIS probation, if he can, then that person, there would be no public record of it. So the public wouldn't be able to look him up and see that he had it, but those of us in law enforcement would see it in connection with future offenses.
Okay. Yes, sir.
If you haven't already done it, why don't you explain SIS?
Suspended. Well,
Suspended imposition of sentence, it means that you're not getting a sentence, that is being suspended, and you get a period of probation with conditions of probation, and if you successfully serve those conditions of probation and don't get revoked, then you have never been sentenced.
As opposed to an SES,
Which is a suspended execution of sentence, where you get a sentence, but the judge says, but I'm going to suspend execution. So someone might get, for an example, a 10-year SES with 3 years of probation. What that means is, I'm sentencing you to 10 years in the penitentiary, however, I'm suspending that. And I'm putting you on probation for 3 years. If you don't get revoked, you never go to the penitentiary for this particular crime. If you do get revoked, then it's 10 years. That's what the difference between SIS and an SES. There's not truth in sentencing here in Missouri, as you can tell from all this. And then to make things even more frustrating for everyone, when you think about it, someone sentenced to the penitentiary for a period of, on most terms, let's say for 10 years, they could be paroled after 3 or 4.
yeah, that's a whole nother,
So, there are just so many opportunities that the system gives judges on the front end and the Department of Corrections on the back end to relieve people from paying the consequences for their crimes that I think it's really a joke.
and I want to point out, though, that so in a lot of cases, judges can request a sentencing, an SAR,
Yes, that's the sentencing assessment.
the sentencing assessment report, and that's done by Department of Corrections, or
Yes.
which is like having the wrong people do it. But so it'll answer a lot of questions, like it'll look at the offender's history, education level, any drugs. It looks at a multitude of things. But what it also looks at is what the range of punishment. What do 18-year-olds who commit two robberies? What's the range of punishment, or what's the average sentence? So when you got a judge in Boone County who gives under some similar circumstances, a guy, we won't say the rec because we all know the circuit attorney's recs are way high. He has 8 years, but then that was a joke. And someone in the St. Louis circuit gives him probation. Do you see how that throws the range of punishment way out of whack? So over time, we get defendants who are charged with serious crimes. Well, I don't know, say for instance, shooting an assault rifle at 2 police officers. That defendant was given 4 years. But to the judge's defense, that was within the range, I believe. Now, I don't know. My point is, when the range is an average of decisions throughout the state of Missouri, you can see how the range gets pulled way down in some circuits.
And Jim, on this guy, I did not attend the sentencing, and it wasn't my case, but I understand that the 2 victims, one of whom I think was knocked to the ground at
Yes.
over 60 years old.
Yes.
But it's my understanding that in their letters to the judge, they pretty much said this guy is sick and needs help.
They want him to get help.
They
Yes,
want him to
I
get
think
help.
was the way it is.
And that sort of gave the judge some cover to do what he did. It blows my mind to think that an older woman who was knocked to the ground by a thug like that would think he just needs
Well, that's
help.
the good nature of most people. They want, I think it was all based on if he has a drug problem, and if he's stealing my purse to help buy those drugs, then I want him to get help. That's just the good nature of the victim. I don't know. It did, I think, in this case, give the judge an out. Now, I will say that he was a young offender. He's 18. He's got no prior convictions. But again, that goes back to what I said earlier about there are no gimmies. There are no certain crimes that in my mind, or maybe in your mind, that a guy commits that he should go to jail. Now, it seems, in my humble opinion, that prison time is often deferred down the road in many cases to give young offenders opportunities to change their life. I use the analogy of a parent. If child does something wrong and you defer punishment, I mean, isn't that what we're talking about? If you want to modify behavior, and in this case it's criminal behavior, there has to be consequences, and if you push those consequences down the road for a period of time, then there are no consequences. I'm getting off sidetracked, and we're on time to end here. Norris Chalmers was arrested for a burglary, 4300 block of West Pine. It was a religious group thing, broke in, stole some items, laptops, whatnot, also stole keys to a car. He had some prior convictions for burglary and stealing. Judge Joe Moriarty, who you got to see her in action. I think she's one of the most professional judges I've ever seen in the courtroom. Gave him 7 years for the burglary. Oh. All right. I'm going to turn it over to Rachel. She's going to talk briefly about our bicycle registration program that we have in the Central West End. If you got a bike, go onto our website, register it. If it ever gets stolen, we have another way of helping the police track down the owner.
Yeah, this is just a new feature on the website. It's right when you go on our homepage. This is a screenshot of our homepage. It has on the left corner here, you click on it, go to online registration. You enter the make, model, serial number, your name and phone number, and that goes into our database where we store it, and then we keep a paper copy as well, and those can be handed over to the police department if a bike is reported stolen or when they recover some bicycles. And everybody should do this. We are going to be talking to Mike's Bikes, which is located on Euclid, to see if they would be willing for every new bike purchase to mention this program to the people who purchased the bike. And the most important thing is the serial number. Even if you don't get registered with us, you should always record your serial number, which is located like right in the middle of your pedals if you lift up your bike and flip it over. But it's a good new program that we're working on. And then this is just the form that you fill out. It takes less than 5 minutes, and if it ever got lost or stolen, it's great.
What is your website exactly?
CWENSI.com.
CWNSI.com.
Yes. That's all I have on that.
Any questions about the bicycle registration? It's simple. It takes. I have a bike in the office. I registered mine. Isabella has a bike in the office. She registered hers. Yes, Paul.
Are you going to send a blast out to everybody who's not here?
Yes, we will. We'll let people know.
One of the better ideas that I've heard in my 11-year career.
I did it last night. Yeah, this came on the website yesterday.
It's a simple program. It doesn't cost you anything. Yes, sir.
Unlike your car, you should like your bike.
Exactly. Not just lock your bike, but you should use a good kryptonite U-lock.
Yeah, that's what's
Stick around afterwards. We'll be here. So thanks.